the glocalization of sport, where we're going to take a deep dive into how these organizations and agencies are really taking a deep dive into the local regions across Asia. If you could start by quickly introducing yourself and your roles. Sheila?
Okay, sure. Sheila Rasu with the NBA. I've been there about 14 years, and I head up marketing and communications for Asia.
And Smile?
I'm Smile Shi. I own a sports marketing agency called Miles Group. So we work with a lot of major sports brands and organizations in the world.
And I think we have a video to showcase what you do.
Just a quick look at what we have done in the past.
Excellent. Right, so I'm going to start with sports tourism. We're in Singapore, the Grand Prix is here, there's loads of other activations, events going on, and we're seeing this everywhere. Gerrit, you touched on it before. It's not just a game, it's everything outside of it. So Sheila, I'll start with you. What are the NBA doing outside of your games in the US, but also across the world, to really tap into that sports tourism?
Yeah, I mean, in reality, like Gerrit had mentioned, most people will, most fans would have never attended an NBA game in their life. And so what do we try to do outside of the US is try to bring that experience closer to fans. And so sports tourism obviously is an important way where we try to bring these experiences to local markets. And I guess, I think that's a stat that says that sports tourism is actually projected to grow 17.5% over the next 7 years. So it's a pretty good stat, a pretty good growth rate. And we do a lot of local activations, but obviously our crown jewel is our international showcase, which is the NBA Global Games. And we, with Abu Dhabi this year, last year, I think, we've now done about more than 200 international games in more than 20 countries. And the Global Games is basically where we invite two NBA teams to play against each other in a particular market, 2 games. And we make it such as, let's say, week-long festivities around the game. So not just the games, but there are fan activations or even a showcase of everything NBA that fans can go to. So that's one way. But then other things that we've done, where maybe there isn't, an opportunity to bring a game because it takes a lot of effort and cost. We bring players out to market. We bring coaches out to market. Most recently in Singapore, we did an NBA Finals viewing party where we brought NBA legends Gary Payton and Ray Allen. And actually, we were quite pleasantly surprised by the reception that we got, even just doing a watch party. So those are just some of the things that we try to do to kind of bring that experience closer to our fans.
I saw Steph Curry was just in
Shanghai,
and about half of China was following him.
So interestingly enough, our players know the importance of sports tourism and building their brand overseas. So Steph is in China, not with us, but he has brands that bring them out. But those all add to it. Yeah.
Excellent. And Gerrit, anything to add to sports tourism and how you're putting on activations outside of the game?
Yeah. So as you mentioned, it's the game and then there's the year-round activation. So when we go down through that process of talking to, countries and, where would make sense maybe to play a game, we listen very carefully what the city or the country or the region is telling us what they need. And that very much differs market to market. And we're trying to be a good partner in return, right? We know what we would like to kind of get out of the market and how we want to grow the market. But if you start looking at what we did in Germany and what we did in the UK so far and what we did in Mexico now for the last 20 years, there are very, very much the objectives from the region that kind of feed what we are doing. So in Brazil, it was very, very important that we do a lot more than just a game. And so we activated around like 4 days with community events. We actually organized a run. We did viewing parties, again, for every 50,000 to 80,000 that get to go to a game. In Germany, we had 1.5 million registry of interest wanting to buy tickets. Right? What do you do with the fans who don't have that opportunity? And so engaging them and giving them something year round that they can engage with is very, very important for us so that we can grow again, locally and kind of give back, because that's the only way you kind of get that long-term relationship going that is so important for us and also for the region that we're doing.
I hear this term being culturally relevant thrown around a lot, especially in Asia, talking about Asia, not as one region, but all the countries individually. Smel, what does being culturally relevant mean to you, and how do you work with your clients, your partners, to ensure that you're being culturally relevant and culturally sensitive in the regions you work in?
Yeah, I think culture relevant, first of all, is actually language abilities, the understanding of a local language and is be able to speak and communicate and all that. I think it's particularly very important in countries like China, like Japan and Korea. And then it's beyond the language, it's definitely to understand how people actually work and how they cooperate, think, and all that actually go back to like how much you actually know the culture of that country. I can give some examples I think for a lot of people here, they may think China is such a challenging market. I think my friend Jay talked about like you cannot just skip that market because it had a huge potential there. And there is economy and market there for sure. So when we go to China market, there are a lot of like red flags you cannot touch. There are a lot of sensitive times you have to be aware, especially with the political sensitivity around different countries versus China or different regions versus China. How you address Hong Kong when you're facing the Chinese audience. It cannot be Hong Kong, cannot be Macau. It has to be China, Hong Kong, and China, Macau. So just give examples about like understanding culture. And also, one thing very important about actively monitor the social media platforms. So when we talk about social media platforms, a lot of people talk about TikTok. However, there's no TikTok in China. It's called Douyin, right? It's actually totally different platforms. And if you want to go to China market, if a lifestyle brand, Xiaohongshu is the one you are going, it's actually not something else. Like in Xiaohongshu is the most rising market for that. China uses a lot of social media platforms nobody else outside of China use. WeChat dominant, how to utilize those kind of platforms, talk to the audience from that particular country. Japan to Korea to our staff actually constantly monitor how fans and audience react to certain kind of information and content, and be alert on what kind of talk might, bother them or get a really bad response. As also part of really important core crisis management, especially from PR part of view and also social media part of view.
Same to you, Sheila. How is the MBA being culturally relevant?
Yeah, so Smile covered China, so I guess we'll talk about the rest of Asia. So there obviously, for us, same like what you mentioned, every market is different, not just language, but cultural sensitivities and how they consume the NBA. And so we look at each market on its own, and we try to figure out kind of what is culturally and also locally relevant for them. So whether it's local commentary on our app, so that people can watch the game in a language that they understand, whether it's making sure we have the right merchandise in market, so whether it's through our brick and mortar stores in markets like Philippines and Australia, where basketball is actually the most played sport when it comes to youth. It could also be working with Fanatics, who is our online e-commerce partner, making sure we have merchandise online for people that don't like going to brick and mortar, which is most people these days. And then also when we look at locally relevant temples, we're actually quite proud of a temple that was created in Asia around Ramadan, which we coined NBA Fast Break. And it's important that we are where the consumers are, but we also understand some of the cultural touch points. And so this year was actually the third year where we launched our NBA Fast Break campaign in Indonesia, where we communicated to fans with inspirational messaging during that period, whether it's sort of tips on how to stay healthy and hydrated, and also just in terms of like partner activations or consumer promotions. And in fact, like, you know, it's the third year that we've done the campaign, but we're proud of it because now other regions are actually using that. So, you know, there are Muslims all over the world, so it's being used in Africa, it's being used in the US, it's being used by the teams because there are Muslim players that play. So those are just some of the ways that we just want to make sure we're culturally relevant.
And how are you measuring this? Are you looking at audience numbers? Are you looking at social growth? What are you showing to your bosses saying, look, this is working?
Yeah. So social listening is obviously probably the easiest way to look at it. But I also think it's feedback, just feedback from our partners, whether it's working for them. So it's not just about us, but also partners that we work with in a lot of these markets. We also listen to the teams and the players because they want to give back to the community. They want to educate people on their background. So a lot of it is also feedback. But feedback, social listening, and then we also do focus groups. But I think that's pretty standard. Yeah.
Gerrit, cultural relevance?
Cultural relevance. So obviously no disagreement that localization, whether language, content, otherwise, absolutely super relevant. You talked about buzzwords, cultural relevance, maybe this year, several years ago, attention economy, right? And everybody kind of competing with time. And I mean, that hasn't really changed, right? Everyone is still very busy with screens and kind of going around. So the biggest question we all have to ask ourselves, regardless of whether you were yesterday in music or today here sitting in for sports, is why should anyone care, right? So if you're a hardcore fan because you grew up this way, that's one way, and obviously you want to be served as a super fan. But how do you grow your fan base, right? How do you grow your fan base if you're an artist, a singer, a band, or if you're a league or an athlete or a team? So for us, cultural relevance also plays into kind of the areas that are not immediately touched by the sport itself, right? And we kind of talked about this can be music, right? Again, you know, Kendrick Lamar, announced as a Super Bowl halftime show for New Orleans for February. Everyone goes like, "Oh, that is great! I love Kendrick. I know nothing about football, but I'm interested in that." You mentioned Taylor. It's like, you know, love Taylor. So who's she dating right now, and who are the Kansas City Chiefs? So all the way to fashion, all the way to kind of what you bring back to kind of your local territory. It's like, what can we offer? And I think, we had the example here, whether, that is through golf or this through basketball, have done a really, really good job over the years by identifying athletes. And there's several brands out there who are using athletes very, very effectively, right? And whether you're bringing Steph or Steph goes by himself, right? It's like in the end, right? He's a recognizable face, right? We have the challenge a little bit. They're all wearing helmets. Nobody knows what they look like. So for us, kind of the helmets off strategy over the last few years has been a very, very, very critical element to kind of combine this with local athletes, right? We're having, saw it a little bit in the clip, whether they're coming out of rugby or other sports, is bringing that cultural relevance. So for Australia, Jordan Mailata, who came out of rugby, who plays for the Eagles, right, has become the face of football in Australia, and we're seeing that in other markets as well. So all of that for us represents cultural relevancy. You find yourself through the sport, not through sport directly, but through something else that is relevant to you culturally, and that's how you maybe then kind of get the connection back to the sport, and maybe then become a fan, hopefully.
And I think that's a good segue into, we talk about global ambassadors, friends of the league, friends of the NBA. Sheila, you've got a video.
I like that you coined a program that we already have. But
I believe you have a video. Do you want to show the video first before you talk?
Maybe let me give a preamble first before we show the video. So I think to what Gerrit said, the way you become a fan can be through many things. And I think the NBA enjoys a position where we are at the intersection of pop culture and sport. And whether it's through music, technology, entertainment, there are many different ways that our fans consume us. Some of them may not even watch our game, but they consume us. They don't know they consume us, but they do consume us. Their sneakers, the apparel, the merchandise that they have. And so how do we make sure we are reaching out to these fans that may not actually watch our games, but expose them a little more so they become more of a fan?
So how do you define a fan?
So there are many different definitions. The way we define it is a fan interacts with us twice a week. So that's one way that we look at it. But when we talk about pop culture, I guess the NFL has Taylor. We've ventured into K-pop, where we feel like, like the NBA, the K-pop now has a place in culture and trend. And there are lots of fans in K-pop that maybe a lot of people don't know. And so, looking for partners that have the same value, that are authentic to our brand, that are authentic fans, is a way that we look to grow an audience. And so last year, we actually signed Sugar from BTS, one of the biggest, probably the biggest band in the world, as an NBA global ambassador. And through that, we've been able to reach his audience. We've incorporated him, whether he appears at our game. We've done merch collabs with him where, it was commercially a success because it sold out in its initial release. But a way for us to also expose the US actually to the rest of the world that, there's K-pop. And now K-pop is big in the US. And so we actually incorporated him into our finals campaign last year. And so I just want to give a preamble before we show the spot, because he's basically the only Asian that's in the spot. So we can show it now.
Welcome to game one of the NBA Finals.
We're all in the finals. 10 on the floor, millions on the edge. Half of us are about to learn the difference between champagne and just pain. This is a test for big fans and small forwards of will and emotions. 48 minutes, long enough for everyone to feel everything. Let's see how fast they push the pace and how quickly you go from angry to amazed, from anxiety to assurance. Denial will lead to determination. Hunger will become hysteria. Just when we think we felt every emotion possible, we realize that was only one game. But it takes 4 wins.
Only way to do it. Only way to do it.
To become champion.
And actually, for those of you who don't know, it's a fun fact, Sugar actually comes from shooting guard. He's a big player. He plays basketball all the time. He has a hoop in the BTS studio that they shoot. So those are just some of the ways.
Amazing. Now, Smile, golf. It seems like a lot of sports players, their second sport is golf. So is that easy for you to then bring in these outside celebrities, these other entertainment industries to work with you and collaborate?
Yeah, we have a joke, say the ultimate life goal is play golf after you retire for any other sports, because you can play until
like basketball.
8. Yeah, you can,易建联, right? So we're actually very aware, very alert about whoever actually famous figure, no matter it's sports athletes or it's celebrity, a singer, or like a super artists who actually passionate about golf. Because we, as a company, golf is definitely our very dominant part of business. I personally really love a challenge. And I think golf is such a niche sport in Asia. It's the biggest challenge is how you can promote a niche sport and to reach a wider audience. With myself, I played a ping pong as a career in my life, so I can utilize a lot of my connections in ping pong. And the good thing is all the ping pong champions now play golf, so I have a very good kind of edge there. So how use them as utilize their popularity to promote the events I work on to promote this sport, I think it has been a very good strategy we have been using for China markets. But at the same time, we also took a look at like Hong Kong or Macau markets. Actually, a lot of people doesn't know all the Chinese probably from mainland China to Macau to Hong Kong, even to Taiwan, those Chinese Taipei markets, they actually really like watch TVB shows. So where they grew up watching the TVB shows. So we use a lot of local talents, artists from TVB, and they a lot of them don't know golf at all, but however, I bring them to the golf events, give them special experience. This is something I really want to showcase to fans. Actually, it's not just about golf as a game. You may think it's boring to watch on TV for 4.5 hours, but if you actually go on site, go to the games, you will see there's so many fan village, interactive games. It's super good to spend a day with your children on the golf tournament, walk with the golfers, see how they prepare, listen to inspirational stories, and even there are concerts, right, after the round of a game for the day. So there are so many things and events you can be part of it and enjoying as experience. So I think it's very important, just like everybody shared here. We really want to try to promote sports with leverage across sports and also across entertainment and other industries. I think it has been very beneficial for us to promote our clients.
Amazing. I've only got 2 minutes left. Who are you looking at and thinking they're doing a really good job in Asia? Why are we not doing something that they're doing? Who impresses you? Who's doing something unique? And you can't say yourself.
A trick question.
I have to say this too.
You can say each other if you want, but you have to say why. Gerrit, I'll start with you.
Well, I mean, if I can take one step back, because I think also what the video showed, which was a great video, right, and what it plays into is the emotion, right? Emotion, storytelling, and even golf, right? Golf has come a long, long way. If you look at the last few years, the storytelling, the characters, especially through social and everything else, there's a lot of entertainment that comes through it, right? If you look at, Formula One, Drive to Survive, right? Which, through NFL shows afterwards kind of like going like, hey, maybe we should do something similar with quarterback and receivers, and then you have basketball, you have golf shows, right? Full Swing, I believe, right? So I think everyone is looking at everyone. Right, and I think anyone who says they're not looking at someone else, I think they're lying, right? Especially internationally, especially as you look to Asia, because a lot of the sports that we're talking about don't have that muscle memory, they don't have the experience, and so I'm the first one back home, where especially in the U.S., where it's like we can't look at each other because we're all kind of like big entities, and we just do our thing, but actually internationally, anyone can learn from anyone. And I see that with the athletes as well, right? I see how our football players come to the basketball games, right? And then, they play golf, right? And they're actually pretty good at it, most of them, and vice versa. So I think the cross-pollination of athletes and of the sports, right? I think all have their own kind of space to be in. And so I can't even point to one, right? Because there's a lot of stuff. I look at the NBA and their continuous commitment through the years and their investments and how they kind of set themselves up. I look at Formula One, which doesn't really is driven by kind of like, because they don't really have a home, they kind of like live everywhere. So very, very different kind of setup. So, I will continuously to be curious about anyone who has something to do out there that kind of like changes the game, and no pun intended, but yeah.
I think that was a good move, a good slide. I think we all learn from each other, and we had The Last Dance, right? During COVID, nobody was playing any sports, so we had The Last Dance that launched, that became so popular, and then the NFL had Drive to Succeed, and then we look at that and we say, okay, so this season we have the starting five. Let's see how that goes. I don't know if it's a new series that we're launching that follows people like LeBron throughout the whole season. So I think we look at each other and then you try to do a better version of it. I mean, to be honest, right? That's what you want to do, right?
Well, we are activation agency, so that was basically our job on a daily basis. Just look around at how other sports events or lifestyle events, how they are doing. And then even when we work with different casino partners, so we actually want to see how our casino partners are doing. You just really need to understand your competition, or actually every single competition is actually your teacher. So every single day you learn something and see how you can better utilize your local language, local knowledge of each market and do a better job.
Perfect answers. And with that, we're out of time. So if you can join me in thanking my great panelists, Meier, Sheila, and Gerrit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.